that, good evening and welcome to the September 26, 2024 regular meeting of the San Diego Community Power Board of Directors. I am Joel Agala, Chair of the Board and the representative for the City of San Diego. Welcome the members of the public, community power staff, and board members joining us in person today. I'll call the September 26, 2024 regular meeting of the Board of Directors of San Diego Community Power to order. Arnie, will you please call the roll?
Chair LaCava.
Present.
Director Leffler-Reamer. Director Aguirre. Director Parent. Director Yamani. Here. Director McCaff.
Present.
Alternate Director Kratz.
Here.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. All right, we'll start out with the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand if you're able. Face the flag, hand over your heart. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Notice the board member Parent take moments. The quorum again is present. Next up on the agenda, we'll start out with a land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that this meeting is taking place on the land of the original inhabitants of the greater San Diego region. The land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to create meaningful partnerships and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that were the traditional lands of the Kumai. With that, we'll go next to introducing our newest Community Advisory Committee member, Luis Montero Adams, who now is a representative of the City of San Diego. Luis, if you want to come up and introduce yourself and say a few words.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Luis Montero Adams, pronounced It's a pleasure to see some friendly faces up here. I am excited to introduce myself for a number of reasons, but specifically representing the City of San Diego. I have the pleasure of residing in the City of San Diego District 4, one of the historically disenfranchised underfunded communities of San Diego. One of the spaces where I feel that San Diego Community Power really has an opportunity to make a difference is to empower and provide increased services to the communities that have oftentimes been left behind. Through my career, I've been working to empower my communities. I jokingly say that 98% of my life has been within the San Diego region, and it is my honor to be here with my 5-year-old daughter, who will continue that legacy, hopefully far into the future. One of the spaces that I see San Diego Community Power really making a difference is empowering communities to really be able to take control of power needs. As a recent homeowner and someone who just finished their first true-up year with San Diego Community Power, I'm very excited for these relationships. Hope to be able to provide continue that relationship between San Diego Community Power and the communities that I represent. So everyone, thank you very much. It is an honor to be on the Community Advisory Committee.
Oh, thank you very much for joining. We appreciate you devoting your personal time. So thank you very much, Luis. Next up, we'll introduce new hires. Community Power has had 6 new hires to the Community Power team, and I invite them to come up. And rather than having me butcher your names, I'll have you say your names on your own. So in whatever order.
Good evening. My name is Jacqueline Vogel. I am the Project Operations and Proposal Manager working on the programs team at San Diego Community Power. So I'll be working closely with Constantine Tully and his great team on the work that they're doing in the area to incentivize clean energy. The background is project management. I'm a project management professional, and I've been in San Diego for about 12 years, starting with my career at the San Diego Zoo, followed by the Port of San Diego, and then Center for Sustainable Energy. Brief moment at a remote software firm, and I'm here, so I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Afternoon, board. My name is Dean Kinflux, Senior Strategic Policy Manager. Really excited to work at San Diego Community Power. 17 years of experience in the utility and energy industry. Looking forward to working that one.
Great, welcome on board.
Good afternoon. My name is Rachel Sugg. I'm the new Vehicle Grid Integration Program Manager on the programs team. I've been working in the clean energy industry, specifically in San Diego, for about 8 years. First at the Center for Sustainable Energy, and then at Newbie, a vehicle to everything software company. Back to you, Bill.
Welcome on board.
Hi, my name is Kate Regal, and I'm the new Public Outreach Coordinator at San Diego Community Power. I graduated from San Diego State with a degree in sustainability, and I previously worked as a Think Blue intern for the City of San Diego Stormwater Department, helping with their outreach initiatives. Hello and good evening, board members and fellow Community Power team members. My name is Linda Miernes. I joined Community Power as the new Human Resources Coordinator. I have over 10 years of experience in several areas in HR, ranging from recruiting to HR systems. I am a San Diego native, born and raised. I grew up in City Heights, moved to Chula Vista about 15 years ago. Growing up in diverse surroundings, I'm excited to be a part of an organization that's passionate about providing clean, renewable energy, and that's committed to providing a positive change to everyone in the environment. Thank you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Bronte Parker. I am the new Senior Quantitative Energy Analyst in Power Services, and I'm a native San Diegan. I got my master's at San Diego State University in Applied Economics, and then I went straight to San Diego Gas and Electric. From there, got started in the energy business, and I'm very excited to be at SDCP now. Thank you.
Thank you. Continue to attract the brightest and the best. So welcome all aboard. So with that, we'll move along on the agendas. Mari, or is there any items to be added, withdrawn, or reordered on the agenda?
Oh, Mr. Chairman.
From my colleagues. So we will now take up non-agenda public comment. I want to note that written public comments submitted before the board meeting were emailed to all directors prior to the board meeting and will be posted on the website at the beginning of the meeting. Mari, do we have any non-agenda public comment?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. So we will now move on to our consent calendar, items 1 through 12, which is approve the August 22nd meeting minutes, receive and file the treasurer's report for the period ending June 30th, receive and file update on programs, power resources, human resources, customer operations, marketing, public relations and local government affairs, community advisory committee, community clean energy grant program, San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative Memorandum of Understanding. Item 11 is approve a contract with Virtual Peaker with a not to exceed amount of 2.4 million over 3 years, and options of 2 one-year extensions for distributed energy resources management system. And item 12 is to adopt a resolution 2024-07, approving the 2025 board meeting schedule for San Diego Community Power. Would any director like to pull any item from the consent calendar? Not seeing any. Mari, do we have any public comment on the consent?
No, Mr. Chairman.
All right. This is opportunity for comments or a motion on the consent item.
Chair, I would be happy to make a motion to approve the consent calendar. So moved.
All right.
Second, Mr. Chair.
All right. All in favor to move the consent item, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? And that passes 6-0. Abstain, my apologies. All right. So moving right along, we're on item 13, which is a presentation and update on clean energy prepayment financing. I'll turn it over to our Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Eric Washington.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good evening, directors. Good evening, San Diego Community Power staff and members of our community. I'll be joined during this presentation by Michael Berwinger, the Managing Director of PFM Financial Advisors. This presentation is or receive and file, and it is a refresh on prepaid financing as well as an update to the board of directors of the trajectory that we're on in terms of transacting our first prepaid transaction. So with that, I will hand it over to Mr. Berwinger for the first portion of the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we've got it loud and clear, Michael. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. We can jump right to the next slide here, just as maybe a refresher on what an energy prepay looks like, what the purpose. The potential transaction is designed to reduce the cost of power purchases by hopefully 8% or more. This is the existing PPAs that you've signed, just reducing those fixed costs by another 8% or more. The way to do that is you are a municipal entity and you are eligible to borrow on a tax exempt basis, much like your individual entities that you represent. You can borrow tax exempt, which is highly advantageous and very low cost. This leverages the ability to do that in order to apply it to your PPAs, basically. This is not a novel concept. This is codified in the US tax law. It has been for decades. It's been used since the 90s by a variety of municipal utilities around the country. Until just a few years ago, it was largely used for natural gas procurement for gas distribution utilities that supply gas to homes throughout the Southeast predominantly. In 2021, the CCA community had led the charge to adopt this financial technology and apply it to energy purchases. And since then, there have now been 12 transactions done by CCAs in California for close to just over $11 billion worth of transactions. So you can see the list here. There's quite a number of folks that have already done it, and there's a growing list of folks that are currently pursuing it as well. And we can flip to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Like I said, prepay, the idea of a prepay transaction has been around for quite some time. The public utilities in California have taken advantage of this since the 2000s, early 2000s. So you can see on this list, a variety of other municipally owned electric utilities have done these for gas that were the gas is used to produce electricity, or in the case of Long Beach, they own a gas distribution utility. They supply gas to the home. They've done one of these. It wasn't until just earlier this year, May of this year, that the first energy prepay had actually been done by another municipal utility. So that was the City of Anaheim Utilities had done one through the Southern California Public Power Authority. They actually hit a really, really favorable market, and they were able to save 15% on two very old and quite expensive PPAs. And we can flip to the next slide. And what the next slide will show you when it comes up is, just the list of all of the CCA transactions in the state that have been completed since, we all kind of figured out how to apply it to the existing PPAs. So you can see, Silicon Valley and East Bay, now Ava, they've each done, 3 transactions. MCE has done a couple transactions. Clean Power Alliance has done 3 with 2 more pending, so on and so forth. And what I would say about these, a couple things. One, all of these transactions have done very well and received just about 10% or more of savings off of existing PPA prices. And all of them, you can see there's this column here that has the same name repeatedly under issuer. That is the California Community Choice Financing Authority. So all of these CCAs have transacted through this entity. You obviously have that in the package there'll be more discussion on that in a moment. But everybody has used that financing authority to execute these. And then we can flip to the next slide. Sorry, I get a little lag. Maybe it's just my end. So just as a refresher, who's involved in a prepayment transaction should you decide to move forward. San Diego Community Power, you have existing power purchase agreements that are eligible for this. You would need to hire, which you have, a potential prepaid counterparty. This is typically a financial institution who also has a commodity presence, or somebody that was otherwise partnered with a commodity market participant. Very critical to the structure is an issuer of the bonds that, again, has been for all of the other CCA transactions, that has been the California Community Choice Financing Authority, or CCCFA for short. You have existing power supply counterparties. They will agree to a limited assignment to help facilitate the transaction. That's been quite successful. Over 30 counterparties to date have agreed to this. You will have bond investors to buy the bonds. They will be non-recourse, meaning that you are not pledging the revenues of San Diego Community Power to repay the debt. And then obviously, in order to facilitate this, there's a host of service providers that you've already brought on board with respective expertise in different areas, such as myself as a financial advisor, lawyers. We all need good lawyers that cover a whole host of bond, tax, and disclosure responsibilities. And with that, I believe, Eric, I'm throwing it back to you.
Great. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Berwinger, so much for the presentation. So again, this is a receive and file item, and staff wanted to, in concert with the financial advisor, provide the board with an update. So you recall back in November, we ran a request for a proposal to issue to municipal financial advisor, in which PFM was selected from that, and we just heard from Mr. Berwinger. We then made a prepaid presentation to the FOMC meeting in February, then again at the board during the February meeting cycle. In August, we came before the board with a legal counsel agreement where we engage the disclosure counsel as well as the tax and bond counsel. This month, during the Finance and Risk Management Committee, we presented a similar presentation with the assistance of Mr. Berwinger, and I will bring you to the board the same presentation again to receive and file. Today, we are at the point where we will be presenting an item to request the membership or resolution be passed for us to join as an associate member to the CCCFA. And then this slide also shows the next steps with regard to the meeting times and the potential time frame in which we look to execute and actually close on our first prepaid financing transaction. That concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair, on this item. I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you both. Mari, do we have any public comments on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. This is for receive and file. Unless there's any objection, we'll just do that. Is there any questions or comments? All right, so with that, we will move right along to item 14, which is the adoption of resolution number 2024-06, approving California Community Choice Financing Authority as a bond issuer for the energy prepayment transaction. Again, I'll turn it back over to the Chief Financial Officer, Dr. Eric Washington.
Thank you again, Mr. Chair, and directors. So this item is a resolution for us to join California Community Choice Financing Authority as the bond issuer for our prepaid financing transaction that we are in the process of closing. As part of the energy prepayment transaction, this role of the bond issuer is necessary. The California Community Choice Financing Authority is a bond issuer that was established in 2021 with the goal to reduce the cost of power purchases for members for its member of community choice aggregators or CCAs through this prepayment structure. The triple CFA, its JPA specifies that no debt, liability, or obligation of the triple CFA or CCCFA shall be the debt, liability, or obligation of its members. As a public joint powers authority, the triple CFA or CCCFA can issue bonds that are tax exempt and enter into 30-year non-recourse tax exempt prepaid transactions with taxable prepaid supplier of energy. So the requirements to become a member of the triple CFA or again CCCFA, there are several things that we're required to comply with and follow certain steps, including to become a member, there is a one-time fee of $50,000 membership, as well as a $20,000 per transaction fee. And then, of course, there are also a pro rata share of ongoing administrative related costs as a member of the CCCFA to offset or to cover the cost of annual general and administrative costs. So again, those fees, the administrative cost fees, are prorated among its members. And in the previous item in the slide, there's currently 6 members, and other CCAs are in line to become members as well. So those fees will be spread across all the members of the CCA. So that concludes my presentation, Mr. Chair. So I will turn it back over to you. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Maureen, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. So this one does require action. Their staff has put forth a recommendation to adopt the resolution. Do we have any comments, motion by the board members?
Mr. Chair, I just want to say that the FRMC did get a presentation on this item, and we really appreciate Dr. Washington and his finance team. They did an excellent job, so I will go ahead and move to approve item number 14.
Second, Mr. Chair.
Any other comments? Councilmember Karen.
Yeah, thanks for, I'll be supporting this and want to reiterate what I had said the last time we had this before us, that I really do appreciate the efforts of staff trying to identify all the advantages that we might have as a public agency to be able to get preferential rates to make these kinds of investments. This is a great way to advance our dual goals of achieving 100% clean energy and also having lower rates for our ratepayers. This is a great tool for that, and I'm glad we're pursuing it. Thanks. Thanks, Director.
Not seeing any other, I'll echo the comments of Councilmember Parent. Well done, it's great to engage something that's been pretty well tested by other CCAs before us, which is always, sometimes it's good to be a pioneer, but sometimes on financial matters, it's better to let others blaze the path. So with that, and not seeing any other comments, we have a motion by Mayor McCann, a second by Deputy Mayor Yamani to move the staff recommendation. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining, and that passes unanimously. Thank you, Dr. Washington, and everybody involved in that effort. So with that, we'll move on to item 15, which is approval of the amended and restated power purchase agreement with JVR Energy Parks LLC. I'll turn this over to Kenny Key, Director of Power Contracts, to present the item.
Thank you, Chair of the Public Board. Yeah, Kenny Key, Director of Power Contracts. I was one of the staff members helping with this item. Next slide, please. So I wanted to start giving a little bit of background on this project, as it's been in the works for a bit. So the developer is Baywa. It's a local project. It's in San Diego County. It's a 90 megawatt AC solar PV facility, along with a 70 megawatt 4-hour battery facility there. It has a COD expectation of Q4 2026, so fairly near term for our portfolio, and has expected energy of around enough to power about 52,000 homes in our region. So a fairly substantial project. And as you can see from the map here, again, just for reminders, we haven't brought the project in a little bit. This is the map, is how we score projects when we do our criteria. And again, we're focused on trying to support local projects, which is kind of defined in our criteria as within San Diego or Imperial County. So this one is located in an area that has been identified as one of the prime areas for solar development, and then obviously scored well on that criteria. Next slide, please. All right, so this is some background on where we are and why we're bringing an amended and restated PPA. So this project goes all the way back to 2021, before I was on staff. And so this came in for solicitation. The original PPA was approved by the board in 2021. Since that time, there was litigation over the major use permit under SEPA. And so that went through a lengthy process. We brought an amendment to the board back in 2023 to basically allow that litigation process to work its course. Again, that's kind of the forum for any land use decisions and citing and zoning items. So that amendment was again approved in early 2023. And since then, the litigation has resolved. The project won both in the lower courts and in the appellate courts, and it was not further appealed. So for all intents and purposes, the litigation is resolved. So what we're bringing today, what I'll go over in a bit, is now some amendments, some changes to amend and restate that PPA to allow us to move forward with the project and allow the developer to continue development. Next slide, please. Okay, so again, key terms of this amended and restated version of the PPA. So again, it's a bundled PPA, which basically means that we're getting the energy from the project, we're getting all the recs and attributes, we're getting capacity, ancillary services, all those. One thing I'll highlight from this, and again, why we favor scoring for local projects, is the resource adequacy associated with this project is considered local RA, which again is a hot commodity these days and something that's difficult to acquire. And so any project that has that scores well in our criteria. This will be a fixed 20-year term of this project, and will have the potential for price adjustment if the project does not maintain energy community bonus credit status. So that's a federal program that there could be slight adjustments based on that criteria in the future. Again, the COD date is in late 2026. The project does have full capacity deliverability status, which again, that just basically allows us to count the RA for the project. So you have to think about that. So that's a critical factor and something again that's in short supply these days with the backlogs with deliverability with CAISO. The scope of this is again revised pricing to maintain viability of the project. It still scores well compared to other projects that we've seen recently that have 2026 around their CODs. We increase the security deposit again to risk that and that's more protections for community power, and again reduced a lot of risks to community power by updating a lot of the language to our current, to be more closely aligned with our current pro forma and the risk we put in those contracts. So again, I think on some we're able to reduce a lot of the risk associated with the contract. Next slide, please. Okay, and just again to reiterate, most of this has not changed since the last couple of times that the board has approved. We just wanted to reiterate again why this project scored well initially and a lot of the community benefits associated with it. So again, the project is a full project labor agreement. It will support close to 350 jobs to develop the project. There's a ton of downstream impacts of that on local spending and local contributions. As part of their permitting requirements and done with the county, there was a $4 million fund that was set up. Some of that has already been allocated to projects in the local community. There's still a little over $3.5 million that will be allocated in the future associated with this. Again, that will be targeted primarily for residents at or near the project. And again, there's a large chunk of land associated with the project that they've agreed to hold in perpetuity as conservation that surrounds it. And again, there is also plans for post the useful life of the project to again, how that would be restored. Next slide, please. Here we go. So sorry, just a quick summary here of our staff analysis and our recommendation. So again, I can't reiterate enough how limited right now local renewable projects are that at least are at this advanced stage. And so this is a local resource. It's been in our portfolio. It's the only resource in our current portfolio that's in San Diego County. So I can't reiterate enough that the value that has to us in our local rules, and especially projects that have full deliverability status and provide multiple RA. So the second thing is the revised pricing on this is competitive. So again, we did have to revise that. We'll be open about that, but again, it's competitive with what we've seen in current solicitations, especially with local projects with those COD timelines. And there is significant community benefits associated with this project that I would say are a little bit above what we see from other projects that have come through. So the recommendation would be to move forward with approving this item, and happy to take any questions or comments.
All right, thank you, Kenny, for your work and presentation here. Mara, I believe we have public comment on this one.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have one person online and one in person, so we'll call the person online first. Christina Marcus.
Thank you. Good evening. Christina Marquez calling in on behalf of IBEW Local 569 and 3700 union electricians and power professionals. As you know, like Byron said, this has a project labor agreement. This will employ over 350 tradespeople. But not only that, this will help give work to apprentices, the next generation of all trades. And on our side with electricians, we all know that we're trying to electrify and, reduce GHGs. I know that you guys know that because of the CAISO requirement, this is, as Byron said, something that's necessary and really important to get into your portfolio. So please, please, please vote yes to support this, and let's get this on your portfolio and get this project moving forward. Thank you for your time and have a great evening.
Our next speaker is Jeff Osborne.
Good evening, Board of Directors. I don't know if you remember us here a couple of years ago, and maybe if anyone was at the Board of Supervisor hearing a couple of years ago, this got approved. We were also there. I don't know if I can still. Hopefully, you guys have the packet that I created here. I'm the chair of the Acumba Community Sponsor Group. I'm also the president of the Highlands Senior Center in Acumba, which is one of the subject properties on the map. We're a town of 500 people. We're one of the lowest income communities in all of San Diego County. This is literally David versus Goliath. And essentially the union just had to come because they're trying to represent that, our town doesn't matter and what they want is more important. And we're not asking you to cancel this project. We're not asking you to not approve it as a project to come into the SDCP portfolio. We're just asking for you to support us in our desire to hold them accountable to the commitments they made at the supervisor hearing back in 2021. And those commitments are to strive for 1,000-foot setback. And right now we're getting a lot of misdirection, and they won't be clear about the true needs of the project size. And we've hired an engineer. I kind of walk through this just for a second. I'll try to go as quick as I can. The first slide here shows a perspective they don't usually show the project, which you can really see how much it encroaches on our community. I'm sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay.
Actually, why don't you, can you let him sit there?
Yeah.
Maybe I will start to
this one. I don't feel like I'm like at my kid's school. On the table. Okay. So that first slide there just shows this project from the perspective of looking from Mexico over the border into our small community of Acumba Hot Springs. I don't know if anyone here's ever been there, but it's actually a really nice historic town. It was built in the 20s from the ex-mayor of San Diego, and we're actually trying to restore it right now. There's actually a big movement locally to restore this community in the hot springs. So in 2021, BayWa committed at the Board of Supervisors, and as well as the $4 million in community benefits. That was not their idea. That was actually Tara Lawson Reamer's idea to require them to provide community benefit. They try to play it like it was their they came to us with that, but they did not. We had to fight for that really hard. And we never really wanted money, to be honest. We only asked for space for the community. This is the only space we could ever grow as a community, is into this valley to the east. To the south of us is Mexico. To the north of us is Anza Borrego Desert City Park. There's nowhere to go. This is the only place. And there's a new VMT rule that just came out that would actually allow us to have up to 1,000 housing units in the future if we had a potential to grow a little bit and maybe provide some workforce housing. And this would be where that could go. So what we're asking for today as a community is just for you guys to wait until we finalize the final map of the county. Because essentially they haven't gotten to a final agreed plan with development services at this point. They don't have a final map. And I just asked for it the other day for Brandon, who's here. And I said, well, can you please provide the panels you're using, the size of them, so I can check it with our engineer that we had to hire. And they won't provide it. They won't tell us what they're actually putting in, because we have a lot of evidence to prove that they can build this project with the same power production on about 400 acres. And they're trying to hide behind, not being clear about what they're producing and say they need 500. So we're just asking for that space that was required in the hearing. On the next slide, I can just walk through. This is the minute order here from the Board of Supervisors. Change the project setback.
I'm going to interrupt for a second. Yeah. Burn through your 3 minutes. Do you have anybody here that can see you, Kai? Want to make sure that you can't.
I only filled out one card.
We can get another card filled.
Okay.
Somebody.
Could you fill out a card for me, please? Can I see your time? So it continues.
Yes.
Time.
Okay. You get 3 more minutes.
Okay, thank you. The next slide here is literally the project description from the county. This is when they describe the setbacks from the park and the residential properties. For some reason, they're trying to push the project right up to the town, including the community center, the Highland Senior Center that I'm the president of. So it's a senior breakfast and a lot of senior programming from, and they don't consider that part of our community. The next slide, you can actually see it drawn. This is a county map or a project map from the development, and you can see the community center is even identified, but it is right there, right with the arrow. And the community park is identified there. And this is their map they had earlier, where they are only doing a setback on the north side there. They're not considering our community park and our community center part of the community. This goes on to show our engineer that we hired called Z Global. This is a company that I think they did Viking Energy. I'm not sure, but they do a lot of projects in Imperial County. You guys might be familiar with them. They're a legitimate solar engineering firm. They only design and build large utility scale solar projects. And this is their chief engineer. And he wrote this letter. If you read my highlight, independent assessment suggests that the JV Energy Park could be reduced by 175 acres and create a significant buffer zone for the community while still meeting contract obligations. This was hard to get. We didn't get this till the day before the hearing, unfortunately, in 2021. I don't think it really got to land. So now we are trying to just enforce what was approved that day by all 5 Board of Supervisors, which is 1,000 foot. They use the word strive, and I think it's a really important word here, is we're asking for a neutral third party to make sure that they're actually reducing their footprint as much as possible while still meeting the power obligation to you and to the original project scope, which was 90 megawatts. This next slide is something I received during litigation. This was during our lawsuit. This is a map that our engineers made. It's 420 acres. They showed us they could do it. We didn't take their offer. We thought, we just went to the depth of this. This is the future of our town, and we were fighting. Unfortunately, the last slide, I actually didn't get the right mission statement. I got it later on here for you guys. I might hand it out just for fun. But the real one actually for SDCP is invest in the community to create an equitable and sustainable future. And the vision was prioritizing equity. So we're not asking for no project. We're just asking for you guys to support a small rural town that doesn't get a lot of support. And we're extremely underserved. And I think this is literally like, you guys are here and you're not SDG. And we just hope you guys can support us. This means a lot to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you for that. Marty, was there any other?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. So with that, this is an item that requires action. And I'll turn over to board members for comments and motion.
I have a question for staff. So hypothetically, if, you know, what we're hearing were an option and we were to consider it, would that have any effect, you know, on what we're considering tonight?
Yeah, good question. I do want to reiterate something that I think I do think there is some miscommunication clearly between the parties. I think sometimes that happens when there's years of litigation. I know there are some folks here from Baywa who we want them to address any of that as far as the setbacks and so that. I think they're open to share that. I do think some of the setback concerns that were raised, I did have a chance to briefly look at some of that presentation earlier. I think those are, for the most part, from my understanding, addressed in the current design of this, and how or whether or not that's been communicated with the groups who still have some issues with the project, I don't know. But I do think a lot of that has been resolved in a way that meets the intent of what that permit. Again, we're not here for like the land use side of it, like that. There's a different entity that's responsible for that, and so I believe that's been adequately litigated and resolved, and it's been said to meet whatever those requirements were, and it's been again significantly pushed back from what was originally proposed and designed for the project. I can't directly speak to if there was like a more radical project design changes. Typically with these types of projects, that would require additional permitting review and things like that. They could substantially delay the project, and again, that could significantly change how we view the project and the value provided.
Yeah, I understand that. So they're here, would they be willing to make sure to clarify some of that communication?
Sure.
Hi, Brandon Reinhardt from Baywa, Senior Director of Land and Settlement. So I can walk through as much or as little as you would like. But the crux of it is like, this is not a land use hearing. We did one. It was taken to court. We had 17 items that were upheld by the Superior Court of San Diego. They appealed that. Then the 4th District Court of Appeals upheld every single item as well. Most of that is what's in this presentation, including the report that's being referenced. So all of that stuff has been sort of rehashed by a bunch of people with, you know, law degrees and judges on land use, and way smarter than myself, but I'll do my best. The setbacks, there was the STRIVE language, even within our original environmental impact report, there was setbacks. There was different versions of the project, and the approved project was it was called the community buffer version, which was 300 foot setbacks from the community. They asked, as you saw in the language that's quoted in this packet, to strive to 1,000, and we were able to push that to 943 feet on the area that's directly adjacent to the homes on the north side of Highway 80, which was the primary concern in the land use hearing. And so we were able to make a substantial jump on setting back from that. I think that's probably the main thing to discuss in terms of like the layout of the 420 acre version of the project. That was actually a substantially reduced project. My recollection, that was about 70 megawatts, and that was a settlement offer that was rejected prior to the litigation commencing. So that's why that's not really a real project, and it's not comparable to what the deal is now.
Mayor Krantz.
So if it's north of Highway 80, can you tell me what the setback is from the community park?
The park, I think, is south.
Yeah, it's south of Highway 80.
Yeah.
So you're 300 feet north of 80. How far is your setback from the community park?
Sorry, that piece is 300, and then above Highway 80 against the home, we were able to push it to 943. Yeah.
I think Vice Mayor Nunn.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Reading this report, I don't know. I know we're not in land use. We're looking at the project approval for this, but I have concerns with the report I just received with regards to the report from the property owners with regards to a minute, a part of the minutes from the supervisors meeting. I don't know, council, if you have a summary of this litigation that you can provide, so these are all covered, because it says here, we're not following those setbacks. And so I think we have to really look into that and make sure that we listen to these homeowners who live there all their lives. I understand we agreed to move forward with this project 2 years ago, but now this is, there are things here that I'm reading and we're not, it's like it doesn't coincide with what I'm reading from our report.
I do not have a summary of the litigation, although I can obtain one if the board's interested, but I do want to clarify that the decision before the board right now is to approve or not approve the contract amendment. The contracts generally, and Kenny can speak to it more closely, do have something that requires compliance with permitting and other decisions from land use agencies. I believe this one does have that requirement in it. I think Kenny's nodding his head right now. If we were to not approve the contract, then it would be up to BayWa to determine whether they were interested in making project modifications to meet our request. It would be a contract negotiation. And then they would have to take that back to the county if they were interested to make any project design changes. So that would be a long, drawn out process. I think we'd be back to the drawing board, but it is not within our authority to determine whether they are in compliance with the county requirements. It is a contract term. It would be a breach of contract if they did not, but it is not within our purview to go into the details of that, if that makes sense.
Through the chair, follow-up question is, what is the timeline for this and what's the economic impact?
Sorry, two questions were
Timeline. And
timeline for the project.
What if we delay it in order for us to get more information about it, and what's the economic impact? What are we looking at?
Sure, I'll give my best to answer that. So again, when projects are this close to see, I know 2 years doesn't seem like close, but that's in project development life cycles, that's pretty close and pretty advanced stage. And so like any month delay that we have at this point of uncertainty on the contract for the developer, again, pushes that out. So we risk, again, pushing out the project by months if the review back is delayed, which again is, there's an impact to us and to community power and ratepayers of having further open positions for energy, RA, all those things. So like, again, there's a real fiscal impact of any of those delays. The other thing I have one comment to your earlier question is, I know there was some claims in that presentation about potentially not following any parties. Like to Vera's point, that is a condition of almost all of our PPAs. But again, I think those issues also were adjudicated, and the courts ruled that they were in compliance with whatever those permitting requirements were. So again, I think we can happily follow up with summaries of that if that's helpful, but that issue from my perspective has been resolved by the courts.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Councilmember Parent.
Yeah, thanks for these for the presentation and for the comments that we've received. I'll just kind of reiterate what I shared with last time we discussed this in this project in March, and that's that I think it's really important for our agency to communicate to the public and to the marketplace that we are going to take seriously our stated commitment to achieving our 100% green energy goal, and to also to ensure that we're lowering the price of electricity for our customers and our ratepayers. I've seen the same data that everyone else has here, that this, when some of the projects for which we have power purchase agreements come online, our procurement costs are going to go down, and the high costs that so many ratepayers are having to pay will also come down. And that's very, very important not only for their cost of living, but also for achieving our climate action goals. I know there's been a lot of issues raised at this hearing about land use matters that were before the county and before the courts. Those have been resolved there. Not everyone agrees with them. I understand that. That's okay. Like we don't have to do that. But I would be very uncomfortable for this board to try to second guess that. We definitely don't have that information before us, and that's appropriate because that's not a matter before us. What we should be looking at is evaluating whether or not the terms of this contract, the value of procuring this energy is in the best interest of this agency and our ratepayers. And I think our most responsible choices are to limit our consideration to those matters. If it turns out that the project developer is not doing something according to what their agreement with the county and their entitlement, then that's for the county to administer. They're going to have to pull permits and building permits, all these other things to be able to do that. And it should be the county, not us, to make those determinations. So I'm in favor of moving this thing forward. I appreciate that not everyone agrees with, doesn't like the project and all that. I appreciate that, but also, as a local elected official, I would hope that we would be deferring to land use matters that La Mesa decides on. And I want to extend that same comedy to our partners at the county. We've gone through a pretty rigorous effort to make a determination about land use within their jurisdiction. So with that, I'll go ahead and make a motion to approve the item.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Council Member Perrin, a second by Mayor McCann. Do any board members wish? Mayor McCann.
Yeah, again, I really appreciate people coming out to be able to voice their concerns, and I think your concerns are very valid. We don't have the ability to oversee the land use, and I know that the contractor has gone forward and has tried to be able to make those setbacks better. But this is a very important project for the entire county. We're going to be able to increase the supply of clean energy, which is very, very needed. It's going to be local supply, which is one of the goals that we want, as well as it's going to create hundreds of new jobs. So that's why I'm going to be supporting that. And thank you very much, Chair.
Okay, Mayor Krantz.
Yeah, I just wanted to express the challenge that there is kind of getting plopped down in the middle of a pretty contentious fight. And to be in the position of wearing, instead of the City of Encinitas business hat, the San Diego Community Power hat. And I agree with Councilmember Parent that our obligation is to the ratepayers, and therefore I will be supporting the motion as well. I think that one of the lessons here is terms like strive are probably not the greatest terms to use when making motions, because I think I'm assuming that was maybe part of litigation, but it would probably have been better to be more firm. I'm assuming also that they could have made that 1,000-foot setback, but the result would have been less power being generated. So without all that information, it's not clear, if it was just not doable or if it was just less feasible or how it all worked out. But ultimately, as was expressed by Councilmember Parent, the responsibility in this particular action is to the San Diego Community Power Organization, so I will support it.
Eric Gary.
Thank you, Chair. Just very quickly, of course, this is not a land use issue, but I do want to align myself with Mayor McCann's comments. This was obviously litigated. When you guys were last year, I made the same statement. I wouldn't want us to ever move forward in the name of renewable energy while, affecting negatively any community in any way. But in this particular case, we have something before us, and that is what we need to make the decision on. So I would encourage you all to maybe go back to the county and you know, bring some of these concerns that you've raised, despite there having been litigated. Again, the matter before us is within our purview and responsibility. We have to continue to move forward, so I will also be supporting the motion.
Can I make one just quick comment? Can I please just, it's just that this was never litigated, the setback, just to make that clear.
Just wait.
Okay.
So, I have one question for you, so can you please come up to the mic?
Yeah.
And why don't you make your comment just very, very briefly?
Thank you. The setback was never litigated. That's a separate matter that came from the whole it seems like super weird the way the actual law gets decided on what is winnable. It's this weird burden of proof on it's honestly, I don't want to get into that 100%, but the idea is that the setback was never litigated, just so that's clear. The point I'm bringing up tonight has never been litigated. And the second one was that what happens is when you guys sign a PPA, they then use the PPA against us. So they say, well, we already have this PPA for this huge project, and we're only asking for like a little shaving off the side that wouldn't affect your guys' big picture very much. And so just supporting us in that ask for a little fairer project, you can make a big difference to a small community that's very underserved. And just for asking a little time, hey, make sure that they get at least that 1,000 foot. I want to make sure these guys are doing the right thing. And you guys keep talking about the ratepayer, but I'm not hearing the mission and the vision of SDCP.
Okay.
Of equity.
Just one.
Okay.
So I just want clarification. So the figure 3 that you included in your presentation, how much of that comes from the county and how much of that did you add to figure 3? I'm sorry. Yeah. Figure 3 development area with community buffer?
I added the red sections.
The red section. Okay.
Yeah, I outlined the things that they just didn't.
Okay.
And there's not a 300-foot buffer from the community park, by the way. Right. Correct. That's not true. There's a battery storage, you look at the map that's encroaching. They're putting lithium batteries like right up against our senior center.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you.
And then the gentleman from Bayrock. Just to make sure that we understand, as you're sitting down, I want to be careful, at least from my perspective, we're not doing land use. The fact that you have authority to operate within the major use permit boundary, I think we do have an ability to affect what the design of the project is. I'm not telegraphing how I'm going to vote, but for me, I think we do have that flexibility. I think that's what I want power purchase agreement to think about when we look at these things going forward. What do they get entitlements for? What do we actually want them to build for whatever reason that might come into play? Again, I'm not telegraphing anything except that I would expect staff to look into that in terms of where you're citing the battery storage, what does the boundaries look like, what do we want to be doing, because we can have some ability in that regards. So
I can one thing.
No, let me ask you the question. Sure. The figure 3, the green area, which is what the original entitlement included as the buffer. And that's the buffer that currently is drawn at 300 feet and is now going to be moved to 943 feet. Okay. And then the other areas, they would like to have a different buffer. That was not actually part of the original entitlement or discussion. Okay, which I think is unfortunate. And I would agree with Mayor Kranz that the language in a minute, having been on both sides of both getting entitlements and then approving entitlements, could be a little bit better and a little more predictable for both the applicant and for the community, but we're stuck with the way it was struck. So my main point was just to get clarification of where this 943 foot is going to be. I wish the entitlements had been done a little more carefully, but that's passed in that. But I do want to send a message to staff that I do think it's within your ability to look at that in terms of what our goals are, the big picture of what we do going forward. What I'm really moved by is the very broad discussion we had last time this came through. And as I see it, this is, we debated it quite a bit. We went back and forth with a lot of different opinions expressed by the board, and we came up with the conclusion that this project did meet our goals and requirements. And ultimately, if I'm not mistaken, I think we voted unanimously to move this forward. And I think except for Mayor Kranz, it was those of us, you can change your mind, I'm not saying that, but we did move it forward. And so with that, I'm going to conclude my comments, but I appreciate the clarification. And Kenny, I would expect that you would double check that when whatever plans they submit to you, that the 943 is in fact shown on those building permits or whatever permits that you have.
Appreciate that, Chair. And just to clarify that, even that version that's shown in the diagram there is not the current stuff. So there is additional in the area of concern in the bottom left there. Again, there has been, I don't think that depicts it as the full 300 in that area. But again, it's been pushed back to 300. And I believe, correct me if I'm misspeaking, but I believe some of the concerns about the battery placement also been addressed.
Okay, can you expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's, sorry for interrupting here, that's what I was, sorry. Yeah, the battery storage on this project is DC coupled. So it's not centrally located, it's spaced out with the inverters. So it's kind of like equally distributed across the entire project. So instead of having like 70 megawatts of battery containers in one spot, they're like strategically located next to each inverter pad. So they're spaced across.
Not far.
Yeah, which is not as common of a thing to be doing recently, but this dates back to when we had originally designed it that way, and to not interrupt with like the permitting or CEQA, we're just kind of going with how it was done. And then to his point, this is not the current. There was a called minor deviation that was made, and a new plan set basically issued, and that's been approved, and that shows the 943. So that green piece is actually now 3 times that, and that's what you can expect to see.
Okay, all right. Thank you for that clarification. Okay, with that, any other comments or questions by the board? All right, so we have a motion by Councilmember Parent to move the staff recommendation, and seconded by Mayor McCann. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that passes unanimously. Thank you for taking the time to come out. I don't know if you got any answers that make any difference, but we're fine. Okay, moving on to item 16, which is an update on regulatory and legislative affairs. I'm going to turn it over to Aisha Cisna, who is a senior policy manager, and Patrick Welch, senior legislative manager, to present this item. When you're ready.
Thank you. Is my volume okay? A little louder. Hi. How about now?
There.
Excellent. All right. Well, good evening, Chair. Good evening, directors. I have the pleasure of kicking off our regulatory and legislative update by sharing 2 pieces of good news that have come to us from the California Public Utilities Commission as of late. Next slide, please. So this was featured in the staff report last month, but we wanted to announce that the CPUC approved the San Diego Regional Energy Network. This is very exciting for us in terms of achieving our equity goals. It was issued on August 7th, 2024, and it approves the requested 8-year strategic plan, the 4-year budget, and all 10 programs that were proposed. And that's to the tune of $124 million. SDREN is an initiative of San Diego Community Power in partnership with the County of San Diego. And as you can see here, there are 56% of the region's population, the region being San Diego County, lives in underserved communities. And this portfolio of 10 programs is designed to reach all of those communities. And we expect programs to launch towards the end of 2025. So there will be definitely lots more to come. Next slide. And the second decision I wanted to share with you this evening is this decision from the disconnections proceeding. This was adopted on September 12th, and this extends what's called the proportional allocation method for past due bills. So there was a long conversation, or rather debate in this proceeding about how payments on past due balances would flow. After much deliberation, the CPUC decided that they would proportionally allocate payments on past due balances between the CCA and the IOUs. And why this is such a big win is really on some of the principles that the CPUC announced in the decision. As you can see here, the CPUC emphasized that the proportional allocation method contributes to the financial stability of CCAs, and customers as a whole benefit from more financially sound CCAs. So I will just leave the good news at that and hand it off to Patrick to summarize the legislative session.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and board members. Patrick Welch, Senior Legislative Manager for SDCP. I want to provide a quick update on what happened on this year's legislative session, which concluded on August 31st. The governor is still in his bill signing period until Monday. So we still have some more actions that he may or may not take over the weekend, but want to kind of tell you where things landed on a number of key issues. Just as a quick reminder, staff's engagement is really guided by the policy guidelines that you approve generally on a biannual basis. We operate under those guidelines to engage on legislative as well as regulatory matters as well. And our three key principles or pillars in those guidelines are deep decarbonization, accelerating that and doing it equitably, promoting local development, and also stabilizing community choice, protecting our model. Next slide, please. Not only did we take some positions on some bills this year, I'll get that into a minute, but we're also trying to tell a story about San Diego Clean Power, what the board is doing, what the staff is doing to really meet our mission and achieve our vision. And that's talking about our successes. That's talking about the power that we are bringing online. And it's also talking about the challenges that we face. So really connecting with our legislative delegation and policymakers in Sacramento to talk about that in a strong relationship. Next slide, please. We supported 12 bills this year. Fortunately, did not have to really oppose anything this year. We supported legislation that helped stabilize transmission costs with expanded capacity. In fact, SB 10006 by Senator Padilla was just signed into law yesterday by the governor. We supported housing residents or affordable housing residents in San Diego through legislation that is pending before the governor. And we also supported legislation that would have protected ratepayers from excessive capacity payments. Unfortunately, the governor did not agree with that, and he vetoed AB 1834. And finally, we also supported some legislation that would give the PUC new tools to dig into the issue of affordability and support local resources. Next slide, please. We also supported a number of bills that unfortunately did not make it through the legislative process, mainly focused on transmission development, supporting some Brown Act changes that would make virtual meetings, especially for our CAC, a little bit more feasible, and also that would have really focused on affordability and local resource development. Next slide, please. And I'll conclude by just talking a little bit about the key theme this year, which was affordability. And I think the prior conversation talked a little bit about that in terms of our power supply. And that was really top of mind in Sacramento. I'd say it's the top conversation. I expect it to continue to be the top conversation in the 2025 legislative year as well. And that's because, as the board likely well knows, the number one thing that policymakers are getting calls from their constituents about right now really is high power prices. And I've heard that from elected officials at the federal, state, and local level. So it's something that everyone is really hearing about. There was a lot of talk this year about what programs and costs that ratepayers are paying for and which one should they pay for, which one should they not pay for. In that discussion, there was a discussion of some of programs of interest to SDCP, including the San Diego Regional Energy Network, energy efficiency. We ended up sending a letter with a number of our fellow CCAs to the legislature and talking to our legislative delegation about the importance of energy efficiency in the energy space and achieving our affordability goals, achieving our reliability goals, and achieving our renewable energy goals. That letter, if you want to review it, is included in the packet. All this discussion really was trying to culminate in an affordability legislative package at the end of session. 3 bills emerged on the last day of session with only hours to spare. Only one of those bills was approved and sent to the governor, pending his signature, AB 3264. It's really a transparency measure. It could impose some new reporting requirements on San Diego Community Power and our programs if it's signed into law. So we're waiting and monitoring that really, really closely. AB 3121 would have actually provided about a $30 rebate, one-time rebate to California ratepayers by cutting returning funding from 3 ratepayer-funded programs at the PUC. And then SB 10003 also did not pass, which would have changed the way that the PUC oversees and improves certain IOU wildfire costs, which are one of the main cost drivers right now that are impacting ratepayers. As I mentioned, I think affordability will continue to be a key topic in 2025. Actually, just a couple of days ago, the governor announced that he's going to make some sort of announcement in the next few weeks on it. And he plans to also propose some affordability components as part of his January budget proposal. So I think this will be an issue that you'll probably hear from the policy team at SDCP pretty regularly on. We plan to monitor very closely. And with that, that concludes my presentation.
Great, you guys have been busy. So with that, Mari, do we have any public comment on this item?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, this is a receive and file, and we'll do that unless there's any objection by the board members, but I'll turn it over to my colleagues for any comments or questions. Very good.
Just a quick comment of gratitude for all the hard work. I know, especially to your point about rates being high and whatnot, it's been a difficult legislative year, so thank you for all your work.
Any other comments? I had one question, so it was somewhat related to what we do. AB 3817, which would have allowed remote. Is that dead or is that going to come back?
Yeah, we supported that, and that did not. I don't know exactly where in the process it stalled out, but it was not sent to the governor's desk. That would have made some changes to the Brown Act for subsidiary bodies so that they can meet remotely in really what I think is a more reasonable manner on a regular basis.
Yeah, I think that I would agree with that. So, all right, not seeing any other comments from my colleagues. Well, thank you again for the good work you've done over the course of the year. Thank you for the presentation. With that, we'll go to item 17, which is an update on the solar battery savings program. And I'll turn it over to Emily Fisher, Senior Program Manager. The company's on.
Thank you, Chair and Board. Colin Santulli, Director of Programs here. I'm going to do a quick introduction on this item, and I'll pass it to Emily to go into details. I do have to start by saying it's a nice change to be able to hear and give an update on a program that we're running, as opposed to talk about what we're planning or intending to launch. In the 2.5 years that I've been on staff here, we've done a lot of planning. We've been in this planning phase, and it feels very good. Between this program, the REN that you just heard about, the DERMS platform that was approved earlier tonight, and the implementation of the flexible load strategy, along with a lot of other initiatives that will surely get in front of you at some point. We are starting to build a momentum around serving our customers and your constituents with programs that help them reduce their utility bills and improve their quality of life, and a lot of the things that we were set up to do as an agency. So happy to be here to open this up and to kind of talk about that momentum with solar battery savings. Next slide. So you've seen this slide before, but just to set the table a little bit, the impetus for this program came from our transition from net energy metering to net billing tariff. And that's essentially how we compensate on-site generation providers, and mostly rooftop solar providers in our territory. We made this transition last October when the board adopted NBT. And with it, NBT really changed the economics of rooftop solar, and it provides a lot of value on attaching batteries to the rooftop solar systems. Batteries are out of reach to a lot of our customers. And so we knew that with this transition, we needed to create a program to support not only customers, but also the solar industry that was has really been hit hard with this transition from NEM to NBT. Next slide. So we identified a couple key goals before we started our program design. And the first is very simply to support the installation of solar and storage in single-family homes throughout our territory. We do have the the goal, which is for all of our programs of identifying or striving for 50% of incentives to reach communities of concern. And we have some great progress about that goal as it relates to this project. We also recognize that with those battery attachments, there's real value that we have in storing that energy, and that relates to peak demand. So we included that as one of the goals. And then also we want to build strong relationships with industry and our customers. San Diego has been known as a leader in solar for the last decade. The switch from NEM to MBT really shocked the industry, and we saw this program as an opportunity for us to support San Diego as being a leader in solar and storage moving forward. And then lastly, you'll see this as one of the goals for almost all of our programs. We want to always leverage non-SDCP incentives when we can. Anytime we can find non-ratepayer dollars to lower the pressure on ratepayers, we're going to. And there's a number of other incentives that we can look to make these systems more affordable. So we got our goals in place. We needed an expert to design the program for us. As Emily joined us a year ago last week, and she comes from commercial program design implementation as well as a battery manufacturer. So she was very ready to hit the ground running.
All right, thank you. And I'm Emily Fisher, Senior Program Manager on the programs team. So to develop this program, staff spent several months considering different program designs. We met with existing utilities throughout the nation to understand the lessons learned and successes from their program. Specifically, we talked with other California CCAs to understand what programs they've implemented, what worked, what didn't work, what were their lessons learned, and then what their plans were for future programs. And then we've engaged with organizations, specifically CALSA, and have even launched a partnership with them to make sure that we're staying engaged with the industry. We've interviewed many battery manufacturers, installers, and providers to understand what works from their perspective in terms of the program and specifically what could work within our service territory. And then we held 2 workshops in January where we had over 70 attendees that span the industry to essentially open up the door to comments and feedback. But overall, the industry did respond really positively to the program design. We would obviously iterate based off of their feedback. Next slide. All right, so I think you all have seen a similar version of this slide before, but essentially with all that iteration, we created the program summary here. So you'll see the top table really is the program incentives. So we'll walk through the middle column first, but for our market rate customers, there is no solar upfront incentive, but there is a storage upfront incentive of $3.50 per kWh based on the battery's nameplate usable capacity. That's roughly 30% or so of the battery system cost. And then that would be paid to either the customer or contractor after the system is installed. And then there's a performance incentive, which would be 10 cents per kWh for how the battery is actually being discharged during like a specified daily 2-hour window. It's 2 hours through the end of 2025, but we may expand in future years. And so that will be paid to the customer on an annual basis based on their actual performance. And then on the right side, we have our CARE, FARA, and or Community of Concern incentive. So we did want to provide them with a higher incentive due to just being able to participate and making sure they could actually participate and be able to install solar and or storage. So we had a $450 per kW AC solar incentive, which is around 15% or so of a solar system. And then the storage incentive is $500 per kWh, which is roughly around 40% of the battery system cost. And then for the performance incentive, it is again that same 10 cents per kWh based on how the battery is actually performing during our discharge window. We can move to the bottom table for the program details. So this is a daily discharge program. We're having customers enroll for weekday only or 7 days a week, essentially every day of the year. So they do have some flexibility in terms of how they're participating in their battery. The event duration currently through the end of 2025 is for 2 hours, but we may expand to more hours in the future. It could vary a lot more as we bring the DERMS platform online. And then for battery enrollment, we're allowing participants to essentially select how much of their battery they're participating at minimum 50%. We wanted to give them the option of understanding like they have the ability to control some of their battery and decide how much they actually want to participate in the program, which hopefully has increased the participation rates across our customers. And then for unenrollment, we will have a prorated clawback associated with the upfront incentive if they do unenroll within the first 5 years. And that's based off of how we determine that upfront incentive to be determined, which we'll get into in the next slide. Right, so we had originally allocated $6.5 million for this program from the program's budget. And from the initial workshops that we held back in January with industry, we learned there was a need for more funding based on demand for this program from both the industry and our customers. So we worked closely with the power team to explore creative funding approaches. So every year, our power team is required to submit an annual load forecast to the CEC for all of our customers, which in turn determines our resource adequacy obligations. So within the load forecast, there is an option to put in demand modifiers, which can reduce the resource adequacy obligations, creating budgetary savings essentially. So by using historical models, we were able to determine that the power team could support the upfront incentive by assuming 5 years of resource adequacy savings, and essentially be able to make that upfront incentive 43% cost neutral with that savings. So we were able to get to a total budget of $11.5 million. And then additionally, we looked at the cost of power during on-peak hours based on our hedging, day ahead, and real-time prices, and determined the performance incentive could be paid by power to our customers at a similar rate to what we are paying for it on the market. So essentially, we were reallocating procurement costs to pay our customers for their actual battery participation. So this creates a program to support our customers and the industry by truly aligning with our mission and investing in the community and driving clean energy forward. You can go to the next slide. Right, okay, so to take a deeper dive into what this funding structure looks like, our Power Services Department is always looking for the best long-term agreements for power purchase agreements and energy storage agreements to provide clean energy for our customers and meet our resource adequacy requirements. So these deals are with large developers and can be outside of Southern California and sometimes even outside of the state. So as depicted here, the Power Services fund these contracts with developers, and in return, we get RA and clean energy. Next slide. So with the solar battery savings program, these long-term massive agreements will still take place, but we'll divert some of that funding back to our customers for the energy that they will be producing and dispatching. So we'll be compensating our customers for their participation in the program, where they're providing energy and resource adequacy benefits back to us. So to transform this program into a true virtual power plant, or VPP, we will be incorporating in the DERMS platform. So the daily dispatch of the batteries is currently done in coordination with the battery manufacturers. However, the DERMS platform that we'll be launching next year will allow for these assets to be managed with more sophistication and precision, and dynamically responding to market price signals and grid needs. Additionally, we do have several other pilot projects on the horizon that will similarly use the DERMS platform to coordinate controlled devices such as water heaters and thermostats to create that virtual power plant. And Tim Treadwell from the programs team will be providing a full update on our flexible load strategy at the October board meeting. You can go to the next slide. All right, so with the program launch, we decided to start training approved contractors and battery manufacturers prior to the official launch and the official portal release to make sure that it did have a strong start. So for contractors, we held in-person lunch and learns. 3 were at a large local distributor, Green Tech Renewables, and the other was with International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, or IBEW, at their training facility here in San Diego. We had 44 contractors attend those trainings over the months of June and July. And since then, we've converted that training into a mandatory video within the portal. So they are required to essentially sit through that training before they can access the portal and start submitting projects to us. Additionally, we do have weekly office hours for contractors wanting to attend where communications can be shared and questions can be answered. And then we do also have a weekly newsletter that goes out to contractors. And then we have recently launched updates in the portal. But we have found that consistent communication across various platforms is the key. Because we do have a lot of contractors participating in this program, and I want to make sure that it's consistent communication to our customers. And then we've also held a live virtual training seminar for battery manufacturers that was recorded, and it's been shared with new battery manufacturers as they've been approved, along with having just a one-on-one meeting with them to make sure they're clear on how the program is operationalized within their systems, and then answer any questions that they obviously have. Go to the next slide. You heard me mention the portal. The portal is like our key application for this program. It's where all project communication is done between community power staff, contractors, and manufacturers. It was officially released on July 28th with the official program launch. And contractors and manufacturers can essentially log into here and see the real-time budget. They can see their associated projects. So Contractors can see the projects that they've submitted, battery manufacturers can see the projects where their products have been installed. And then they can obviously see specific documentation for each of them and information associated with each project. So we have made numerous iterations in the portal over the last 2 months to essentially make it easier for us and contractors to use. For example, we recently updated program communications. So we're sending out communications to our customers through the portal for their approval within the program, along with having the new updates tab available for communication with contractors. And the next slide. There was a lot of build up for this, so thank you for your patience. All right, so the progress since launch. So in terms of industry participation, we have really done a great job of drumming up interest. We developed a strong relationship with the local distributor, and they really supported us with building up interest among the local contractors. So we currently have 47 approved contractors with another 20 or so applications that are currently being reviewed. We do have 14 battery manufacturers approved and another 3 applications that we're also reviewing. I do want to note that these battery manufacturers have no financial agreements that play within this program. They're simply participating to increase their market share. So it is really exciting to see some of the big names and the small names out there that are excited about this program. And then a list of the contractors and battery manufacturers can be found on our webpage in case you want to look to see who's enrolled. And then to date, we've received over 1,350 applications, with 500 being submitted within the first 24 hours of the program launch. Since then, we've received around 15 applications per day. And this program has also resulted in a lot of re-enrollment within our service territory. So of the 79 customers that recently re-enrolled over the last 2 months, 40 of those are also enrolled within the solar battery savings program. So over 50%, which is exciting to see. And then currently we do have 928 projects approved with an 80% approval rate. And then based on the existing number of applications that we currently have, we are expecting to have 7.6 million reserved. So that brings us to about 67% of that total budget. So with that being said, we are expecting the current funding to be exhausted by end of October, plus or minus a few weeks. It really is dependent on kind of how contractors to continue to submit applications, new contractors coming online and all of that. But we are really excited to share that 37% of the projects approved have been for net billing tariff customers. So while a lot of contractors have been returning to their existing known customers, there is a lot of participation for customers without solar, which we're really excited about. And then finally, applications have been received from customers in all 7 of Community Power member agencies, and efforts are underway to increase participation in member agencies that are underrepresented in the program relative to the portion of single-family homes within the territory. We're working specifically with contractors that are like within those areas to hopefully motivate them to improve that. Next slide. So another thing we wanted to highlight is the engagement that we've seen across our communities of concern. As Colin mentioned, our goal is 50% of the budget going to communities of concern. So walk through, our average project incentive is around $6,800 with a slightly lower incentive for our market rate customers and obviously a slightly higher project incentive for our CARE, FARA, and communities of concern with the higher dollar per kWh value that I showed on a couple slides ago, along with the additional solar incentive. So 32% of the budget for approved projects, though, is currently going to our communities of concern, which is great. And then additional to that, there's 4.2% of our CARE and FARA customers that are currently participating. We do hope to see an uptick in the CARE and FARA customers' participation with SDCP hopefully being released soon, or the SDCP incentives being released soon. And then we will look to iterate this, obviously, for future funding cycles to make sure we're meeting that 50% goal. Next slide. All right, and then as Colin also highlighted, one of our goals really is to build strong relationships with the industry. And we believe that we've done that through CALSA and through the major distributor to maximize engagement across the solar and storage industry in San Diego. So 61% of the contractors that are currently enrolled are actively engaged in the program. You can see the engagement on the table on the right in terms of number of projects for each contractor. And then 32% of our contractors are diverse business enterprises and 5% are union. And then additionally, the contractors approved vary greatly in size, from a handful of folks to companies with over 200 people. We do just want to note we're really proud of the effort that was put in engaging these local contractors and supporting them through the tough transition from net billing tariff. So I do just want to highlight a couple initial contractor successes that we've heard. One of the contractors that's participated has seen a 953% increase in battery sales since launching this program. Another has told us that they've sold more batteries since the program launched than over the last 5 years, with only 4 of the around 100 projects that they've sold within our service territory being actually outside of community power service territory. So this shows that the program has enabled a much higher adoption rate on batteries, along with really contributing to the net billing tariff transition for the industry, as we're seeing 37% of those customers participating. I will pass it back to Paul.
Thank you, Emily. So this was intended to be an update on the program, but as Emily mentioned, we've had such interest, we are already thinking about next steps. And so with that, we are, as Emily mentioned, we're expecting to be fully reserved towards the end of October, early November. And we're thinking now about how to manage that. So the first thing we're focused on is making sure we communicate to contractors and battery manufacturers when that expected expenditure is going to happen. Once we run out of that funding, we don't anticipate receiving applications anymore. So we want to give the participants as much heads up as we can. During that time when the program would be dark, we're looking to put into place some improvements. There's some improvements we could put in place while the program was operating, but obviously there's value in being able to go make tweaks to the program, whether it be the portal or actually the program guidelines. We are considering other modifications, whether it be to incentive levels or eligibility. There's a lot of things under consideration at this time. And then we are focused very hard on exploring funding opportunities. We were contacted by the Department of Energy about interest in this program, thanks to one of the battery manufacturers that is participating, noting its innovation and success. So we've been in conversations with DOE as well as the Energy Commission here in California. Those are longer term funding opportunities. We're also trying to think creatively about short term with the goal to keep that the gap between when the program goes dark and when it opens up again as short as possible. So with that, I think we can end the presentation and take any questions.
All right, thank you both. Mari, is there any public comment on this item?
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have Kate Unger online.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak about this program. This is Kate Unger with the California Solar and Storage Association, a trade association for local clean energy businesses. Our members are predominantly local and regional contractors and installers of solar and storage systems. They serve residential and non-residential customers that are adopting these technologies to have more control over their energy use, to lower their utility costs, and to increase their resiliency. Encouraging customers with solar to install batteries is extremely important. That makes the solar energy more flexible, able to support the needs of both the customers and the grid. And providing upfront incentives for customers to install batteries is one of the most important ways to help overcome obstacles to customers installing battery storage. We really appreciate San Diego Community Power creating a program that does that. Rebates not only make a huge difference to customers being able to afford and justify adopting battery storage, they also help local solar and storage companies to sell affordable storage systems, and that supports local businesses as well as your customers. This program has made a real difference to CalSim member companies in your region. We think it's very important to provide more funding for the program and for that to happen in a way that's as seamless and continuous as possible. Incentive programs work best when they don't have stops and starts that could be a drag on the market and lead customers to delay purchasing batteries. We appreciate SDCP's efforts to support local customers and local solar and storage businesses. And we've also really appreciated your staff's professionalism and willingness to take input from stakeholders and their dedication to smart program design. We have met with Colin and especially Emily multiple times, and they are a real pleasure to work with. And we look forward to continuing to provide input on program design. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right. This is an item for receipt and file, which will be so unless anybody objects, but I'll turn it over to the board members. Any questions or comments? Vice Mayor.
I need to work harder, Mr. Chairman. Look at my applications, there are only 3 in my city. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Not seeing any other, I'll just join in and say thank you for the very good work. As you said, Tom, it's great that you can, I mean, a lot of stuff to actually have a program underway. And it almost finished before you had a chance to do an update on this, which we'll take as very, very good news. So we'll look forward to some of those creative ideas about how to keep the program going, finding the funding that can really expand. Clearly people are taking to this. So thank you for the good work and everybody involved. With that, we'll move on to item 18, which is a presentation on the partnership agreement with the new Children's Museum. Turn it over to Lee Friedman, our Senior Manager of Strategic Partnerships.
Thank you, Chair LaCava and directors. Again, my name is Lee Friedman, Senior Manager of Strategic Partnerships at San Diego Community Power. I have the distinct pleasure of presenting an item today about a partnership agreement with the new Children's Museum. First, I just want to say and recognize that we had the pleasure of working with 2 fantastic individuals at the new Children's Museum. One who's able to join us today, Stephanie Malin, who is the Director of Development. One who's not able to join us, but still wants to make sure she got her shout out, Rebecca Hook-Held, the Chief Strategic Advancement Officer over at the Children's Museum. Now, one of the strategies that we've been employing at San Diego Community Power is to work with trusted organizations across the community to really establish our brand and our identity. And the new Children's Museum is one of the preeminent institutions in San Diego. I don't know if anybody here has had the pleasure of being able to go to the Children's Museum or take their own children to the new Children's Museum, but it is an incredible institution here in the region. And we started discussions with the new Children's Museum about a studio expansion that they were looking at many months ago, and how San Diego Community Power could partner in supporting that new space being developed and being able to put sort of our sustainable touch and elements into the new Children's Museum as well, which already is an incredible institution and does quite a bit towards sustainability. So we have some facts up on the screen for you. The new Children's Museum sees over 300,000 guests a year, I want to say nearly 200,000 from within the county of San Diego. And this expansion would allow 60,000 additional visitors a year. After school programming, arts programming, these are the types of things that are really critical for families these days. And the new Children's Museum, this expansion space, is going to be able to extend and create more of those opportunities. And of course, where children are, parents generally are as well. And getting to see that investment we're making in the youth of San Diego is something that is really critical to us. The new Children's Museum is also going to be, as part of this, looking at opting up to Power 100 and becoming one of our newer Power 100 champions. And overall, this multi-year agreement is for $150,000, staggered over 3 years. We'll have many opportunities to engage with the museum to develop ways to support their goals, but also ours when it comes to teaching the youth about sustainable practices and renewable energy. So I think if we want to go to the next slide, we do have a couple of renderings, if they ever pop up. There we go, of this new space. And they've already started doing some classes in this space. I want to say this Friday is kicking it off, but the full opening of the space is still slated for February of 2025. And our hope is to do a little bit of an event there as well and make sure all of you can see this incredible new space. And that concludes my presentation on this partnership.
All right. Thank you, sir. And thank you to the Children's Museum as well. Is there any public comment?
Mr. Chair.
All right. And with it, this is also receive and file, which we'll do unless there's objection. Do we have any comments or questions by board? Not seeing any. I think they're just so excited by what you're doing and the good work that you're doing, Lee, with these partnerships. And thank you to the Children's Museum. Look forward to that grand opening. So with that, we will go on to item 19. Big agenda tonight. Presentation on the Energy Academy funding. And Mr. Friedman will do that one too.
Wonderful, thank you, Chair. I also want to recognize 2 individuals who are here tonight that were critical to the establishment of this Regional Energy Academy. Over there in the court, we've got Darby Berry with the San Diego Regional Climate Collaborative and Scott Anders with Epic of San Diego, both located out of USD. The genesis of this conversation, I don't know if anybody here has ever participated either in the San Diego Chamber's LEAD program or in the San Diego County Water Authority Citizens Water Academy, but I've had the pleasure of now participating in both of those. And those were really incredible programs that helped sort of better shape my understanding of water for the Water Academy, but broadly of San Diego when I participated in LEAD. And Scott and Darby both approached San Diego Community Power and San Diego Gas and Electric saying, but we really think that there's a space that we're missing here in San Diego, and that is this idea of an energy academy. And we've been talking about this in circles for a while, and finally we're like, yes, let's get this done. Let's do this, because it's a really incredible idea to raise the general energy IQ of the region. I think as all of you know now, serving on this board, this is a dense and difficult topic, and it still is for me, at least. I know you're probably all experts now. Yeah. But, part of being able to, being a civic leader, an elected leader, a business leader in this community, understanding what's happening in the energy landscape really is critical. And if you don't know what's going on, you don't engage. And what we're seeing here is that more engagement is better. The more people we can bring to the table to have conversations about the goals that we're trying to accomplish, and the more that we're able to educate, the leaders within San Diego, the better the outcomes are going to be. And so this is why we see it so critical to bring an asset like this to the region. So we have already got our first cohort dates selected. They're going to be in November, the 7th, the 14th, and the 21st. The first cohort, I've been calling it sort of our test pancake. We want to make sure that we're doing a great job putting together, and Scott and Darby, along with an advisory committee that they formed, really helped formulate a really incredible program. The modules there, I think, are going to be really critical. But we've already got 60 applications in for the first cohort. And the first cohort, we're expecting to have between 30 and 35 folks. So the demand is there, and we're really excited for it. So over 3 days, participants will learn about core energy principles, understand San Diego's power energy system, learn really about that nexus of energy, climate, and equity, and how climate solutions can mitigate some of the climate challenges we're going to be feeling soon. Ultimately, if you are able to participate in all 3 days, you'll get a certificate as well, saying that you graduated from the Energy Academy. Some incredible field trips being planned as well. We can go to the next slide. Show you the modules, hopefully. There we go. For our 3 days. And we don't have the second cohort dates selected yet, but I just want to reiterate that the funding that is being allocated is going to be both for the first cohort, which is this fall, and the next cohort, tentatively winter, spring 2025. And then based on the feedback we get, the second cohort, some of this might change, but for the first cohort, we're doing 3 days with 6 modules, starting with energy basics, moving to the regional landscape, which will be a field trip, policy goals and progress and challenges, kicking off day 2 and wrapping up with equity and the energy burden. And then day 3, decarbonization and resilience in action, another field trip, and then wrapping it up with pathways to resilience and reliability. So again, ultimately, this is something we're really excited about. We think that this will bring a lot of benefit to the region. And we hope is that as this program grows, that you, your staff, or other folks that you think might be interested will be able to participate in the Energy Academy. And that concludes my presentation.
Great, thank you, Lee. Any public comment?
No, Mr. Chair.
All right, move over to board members. Mary Geary.
Thank you, Chair. I think this is a fantastic idea, and I want to thank Darby and the team at USD for bringing the idea forward. Very familiar with the County Water Authorities Academy, the LEAD. Now even the port has one. The San Diego Port has an academy. So it just makes total sense for us to have this. And I'm reviewing the agenda for the modules, and it's fantastic. So I think it's important.
Any other comments or questions? Not seeing any. I'll join in. Thank you. This is really a brilliant idea. Thank you to good folks for making climate collaborative, for putting this together. Clearly the need is there, and it looks like it's going to get pretty wonky in there, but that could be a very good thing. So with that, thank you again, Lee, for all that work and everybody that's joined in to make it possible. Now we'll move on to the last item on the regular agenda, item 20, update on San Diego Community Power Network overview. We'll turn it over to Melissa Elder, our Community Engagement Associate.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the board. My name is Melissa Elder, Community Engagement Associate, and I'm looking forward to sharing with you today about the overview of the Power Network, which aims to build regional partnerships and collaboration with our community-based organizations, create an ecosystem to create shared ownership over our mission and vision. And we're seeking to receive feedback from the board today on the program to ensure its success ahead of its launch. So the San Diego Community Power Network aims to build regional partnerships and collaboration with our community-based organizations by building relationships with community leaders, by engaging in mutual partnerships that expand overall capacity to implement aligned goals. We are building relationships with community leaders to inform and equip them with the tools to talk about community power's role in a way that fosters transparency, open communication, and collaboration. We're creating an ecosystem of partnership that furthers our reach, community recognition, and trust. And finally, supporting the implementation of community power's customer service offerings. The overall intent is to build and lever partnerships that maximize collective impact, especially within communities of concern, and build shared ownership over a more sustainable future for all. Next slide, please. The Power Network is formed by San Diego Community Power's commitment to investing in communities through programs and activities that deepen our connection to customers. This is outlined in the Community Power Plan, which recognizes community-based organizations as being critical to community power success. So as a part of this effort, we would like to acknowledge all of the work that community-based organizations have done to support San Diego Community Power, some of which you are listed here on the screen. And their success is critical to, their contributions are critical to what we've been able to accomplish. So we're deeply grateful to those who have advocated for our formation and supported our development as a CCA, to those who have contributed to the development of our Community Power Plan, to those who have joined us in advocating for key policy and program issues at all levels of government, such as the San Diego Regional Energy Network, as we heard about earlier today. And to those who have received community power funding to implement community programs. We are extremely grateful for all of you and could not have gotten to this point without you. So looking forward to continuing to formalize and expand upon our work. Next slide, please. So we're looking to achieve the goals of the Power Network through two distinct phases. The first phase is this information gathering phase, which would be a launch of a solicitation process to formally gather information from organizations interested in engaging with or working with community power. Our goal with this process is to understand the needs, the concerns, capacity, and level of influence of our CBOs, to identify competencies and expertise not currently held by community power, to build mutually beneficial partnerships, and to support community power programming implementation. And then the second phase of this process will involve assessing these responses that come in to create an information sharing network to foster collaboration, communication, and programming awareness among an ecosystem aligned with community power's mission. So this would allow us to coordinate cross-organizational outreach and activities for maximum impact, recruit event attendees, organize advocacy around policymaking efforts, and importantly, seek out joint funding opportunities to advance equity and sustainability goals in our region. Next slide. So a functional example on how this could be leveraged to deliver on our mission is through the California Energy Commission's Equitable Building Decarbonization Direct Install Program, which is a mouthful. This program establishes a network of Southern California public agencies and community-based organizations to equitably electrify homes throughout the region.
And so this program allocates nearly $1 million to Community Power as a pass-through to implement these programs through Community Power's Power Network streamline and efficient process, which would transfer the funding from the state-funded programs directly to community organizations to support and implement the work. So as a partner to the County of Los Angeles, who is the regional program administrator, the Power Network positions Community Power to tap organizations to carry out activities such as marketing and promoting the program, informing its implementation and evaluation activities, customizing outreach materials so they're relevant to our communities and culturally competent, conducting in-language targeted outreach, assisting with enrollment and income verification, and importantly, serving as a trusted point of contact to households. Next slide. So we would like to consider all types of partnerships under the Power Network. So we're opening up the solicitation process to nonprofits, schools and higher education, corporate sponsors, member agencies, and special districts. And then some of the benefits to participation for this include being a part of this regional network of stakeholders to share ideas, projects, advocacy for a sustainable future, receiving financial support to work with Community Power in implementing its strategic goals, expanding impact through marketing and co-branding, sponsorship opportunities, and grant opportunities with Community Power, and then directly help shape Community Power's reinvestment in communities by providing input on its Community Power plan, leveraging a connection to regional public agencies when applying for funding opportunities, so we could provide letters of support or partnerships when applying for grants. And then in general, keeping communities informed about regional efforts to achieve 100% clean energy by 2035 to share with and organize within the respective communities. Next slide. So the intent is to remove barriers to participation. And so our solicitation form is relatively simple. We know that community-based organizations are regularly being approached by multiple agencies and program implementers, and we understand that this work requires considerable time and resources. And so we want to make sure that we're making this simple for them to engage. So with this in mind, the submission form allows organizations to indicate their level of capacity with working with Community Power on program implementation and to determine whether or not additional resources are needed. We would call this as a capacity building as well. We want to understand the needs of the areas that they serve, the focus area of the organization, the impact provided by the organization and the community served, and then finally, how the organization envisions themselves engaging with Community Power. Next slide. So Community Power plans on launching the solicitation process by early October, along with a reporting that will outline the main components of the solicitation. And we're currently working with our interpretation vendor to ensure language accessibility as well. As a part of our outreach, it includes hosting 3 in-person workshops in various locations throughout the county to increase accessibility. And we'll be conducting targeted outreach through emails, through social media, and attending various community gatherings and collaborative spaces to make announcements about the solicitation over the next couple of months. And then there'll be a period of time where folks can request technical assistance with staff and questions can be submitted. And then the initial priority period will be open for approximately a month, and we may continue accepting responses on a rolling basis. We are targeting on presenting to the board the initial proposal for contracting in December with work to start early next year. As a part of this process, we've requested input from the Community Advisory Committee on organizations to reach out to ensure that we're having a list that's as comprehensive as possible, and requested that they share with their networks as well. And so we'd like to request the same from you all as well. And we're looking forward to a successful launch and working to catalyze deeper, more meaningful relationships with new partners and re-engaged partners as well.
All right, thank you for the good work on the presentation. Do we have any public comment on this one?
No, Mr. Chair.
This is also received in file, unless there's any questions, any comments or questions by board members. I think it's the end of a very long evening.
I know.
This is pretty amazing work. So there's just one question. the term regional or greater San Diego County region. So is this confined just to the 7 members of community power, or is it countywide?
So an example, the San Diego Regional Energy Network, some of those programs do encompass the entire region, including those outside of our member agencies, and so that could expand.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. So, great, thank you for that good work and everybody that was involved in it. So, this is the end of a very long regular agenda, but I appreciate that the board members were willing to give staff an opportunity to talk about the good stuff that they're doing. There is a lot of activity beyond just going out and buying power that Byron and Kenny and the crew do. That really shows the maturing of the organization. So thank you to staff for the very good work that you're doing every day. And I'm glad we got a chance to share, for you all to share that good work going forward. So with that, we will turn it over to our Chief Executive Officer.
All right, good evening, board members. I know I am the last thing standing between you and dinner, so I will try to be quick. Next slide, please. All right, so earlier this week at Petco Park Stadium, Connect San Diego held their annual Innovation Day. So I joined Jason Anderson of Clean Tech San Diego for a fireside chat or ballpark side chat, as the case may be, moderated by Lee Friedman. And earlier this month, Community Power sponsored and I attended Chula Vista's Mexican Independence Day event along with Mayor McCann and Mayor Geary. It's a really, really great event. Next slide, please.
And at Petco Park, you helped the Padres get into the playoffs, right?
That's right, that was all us. That was all. And then yesterday, we attended the Doing Business for Good annual summit where our Director of Programs, Colin Santulli, and our CAC Chair, Matthew Vasilakis, participated in a panel about how to be a conscious consumer when it comes to energy. We also recently attended the Green Corridor Project Community Connectors Conference, which brought together stakeholders from Nashville City and Southeast San Diego to explore topics such as community land use and environmental justice. Next slide, please. There we go. And then as mentioned last month, we recently announced the recipients of this year's Community Clean Energy Grants. They are listed there. And we're really eager to see the impact of these grants and workforce development projects as they develop and roll out this year. Next slide, please. All right, as you just heard from Melissa, we're continuing to build relationships with local community-based organizations, and we are getting ready to release a request for qualifications for our power network. In the community, we have been out and about. We attended Claremont Family Day, and we attended the RB Alive Street Fair in Rancho Bernardo. We attended the Adams Avenue Street Fair, where we sponsored the Cool Zone. And we also held our third in-person Understanding Your Energy Bill workshop at the Skyline Hills Library. Next slide, please. All right, we welcomed a new member who you met earlier this evening to our CAC, Luis Montero Adam, who will be representing the city of San Diego. And we'd also like to congratulate Peter Anderson, who was recently awarded the Sierra Club San Diego 2024 Lifetime Achievement Award. Peter, who is on our CAC and represents the unincorporated San Diego County, has been a dedicated volunteer with both ourselves and with the Sierra Club. And a reminder that we still have 2 vacancies, Chula Vista and the unincorporated County of San Diego. So if you know anyone within these member agencies interested in being a good fit for our committee, we encourage them to apply via our website. Next slide. All right, and before I conclude, we are still hiring. We have quite a few positions there. I won't name them all, and we are also looking to welcome 2 new hires: a senior program manager, Melissa Van Sant, and Amy Whitehouse, to the Community Power team. And lastly, on October 1st, we will reach an exciting milestone, our 5th year anniversary, the date on which our JPA was first formed. We served our first customer in 2021, and today we serve almost 1 million customer accounts. I'd just like to take a moment to thank all of our current and former board members, all of our current and former community advisory committee members, and all of our current and former staff members, as well as our environmental coalition partners, without whom Community Power would not exist nor have reached the level of success that we have enjoyed to date. So I want to thank everyone who helped to make Community Power possible, and happy 5th anniversary. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. That certainly is pretty remarkable. 5 years. Now, what's remarkable is what you're doing. You're only 5 years old. That's astounding. Before we close, any comments by our directors? Before we go, Mayor Camp, correct?
I appreciate the opportunity to serve as an alternate director while Councilmember Hinsey is on maternity leave. She, I think, will be back next the meeting. So in the meantime, I have seen a lot of good work in these presentations and plenty of opportunities for members of the community of Encinitas, and would love to try and do more to have presentations at our council meetings so that the community becomes a little bit more aware of the good works that are being done here. So I would ask the CEO and her team to keep that in mind, and don't hesitate to get in touch with me if you have an idea.
Councilmember Parent.
Yeah, Mayor Gary reminded me I should invite everyone to join us in La Mesa for Oktoberfest, the weekend of October 4th. I believe that all the beer is brewed with 100% green energy. I'm mistaken about that, but I encourage you to come and find out and check for yourself.
All right, with that, that brings us to the end of our agenda. I appreciate everyone's participation. We're adjourned. The next regular meeting of the Board of Directors will be on October 24th, 2024.
Oh, sure. Yeah.